All right, ladies, let's go ahead and get started. I apologize if I have a little bit of computer problems today. I am presenting from home on my laptop since we're having the cooking demo. It will be hard to do that in my office. So please bear with me as we get going. Normally I have two screens in my office and that makes it so much easier. So for those, I think everyone's been here before, but if not, my name's Kayla Richard, and I still have my Impact West Virginia Education and Employment Specialist title on this slide. But since the last time we met, my position at the Center for Excellence in Disabilities in Morgantown has changed. I am now the curriculum coordinator for the center. So doing a lot of the same things, just with a different program, but I am continuing to work with Impact, especially fulfilling the rest of these life skills sessions and some other presentations that were already in the works before taking my new position. So still in the same place, just a different office. What we're going to talk about today. So this session, we're going to look at ways to save while you're shopping. And some of these are pretty well known, others not so much. We're going to look at different programs to help meet your needs that we can make work for you and things that are available. We're also going to look at some cooking suggestions and techniques, specifically going about freezing food and how to make that work better for you, especially when we can find a sale or a deal or something that we can save money in the long run. And then also couponing and other ways to save. So our big list, and then we're going to get more specific as we go through the presentation, but our ways to save while shopping. So tips and tricks about grocery shopping to get the most bang for your buck. Number one, buy in bulk. What's your price per unit? If you don't know about this, on your racks at the stores, and Walmart is very popular for doing this because theirs is actually surprisingly a little bit larger on their labels, but on the shelf, it actually breaks down the price per unit. So sometimes if you're buying, a good one that always surprises me is paper plates. If you're buying paper plates and you look at how much 100 of them cost versus a 50 pack, and you look at the price and you're like, oh, that's about double. You don't have to do the math for that. Not that that's difficult a lot of times, but if you look at that price per unit, it actually breaks it down for you. So sometimes it's definitely cheaper to buy more of the smaller quantity than it actually is to buy the bigger quantity, which sounds counterproductive, and it kind of is, but that's how the market tricks us sometimes. Varying shopping locations. If you are limited by location, sometimes we are. Maybe our cars broke down, we have to walk somewhere. Maybe we have to rely on the bus, and carrying a lot of groceries on the bus is not oftentimes a fun place to be. So if at all possible, varying where we're buying certain types of foods, or maybe looking for those sales and things that are happening, definitely helps. An example of this, I still do a lot of shopping at Walmart, specifically great value brand products, but we hardly ever buy protein and meat at Walmart because they just do not have the same prices as other places. So we may go to Aldi, or every once in a while, if we know that we're going to be up toward Pittsburgh, which doesn't happen a lot, but if we are, we know that we can go to maybe Trader Joe's or somewhere where they're having a sale, and we can take freezer bags and grab things, bring it home and freeze. And that way we have it and we're saving some money. Utilize strategic couponing, and we'll talk about that more specifically here in a little bit. Shop at less expensive stores. Again, we have places that we know that things are not going to be as expensive, especially places that don't really sell the name brand products. Aldi would be an example of that. We had Ruler back where I was at in Indiana. I don't know if there's a store like that here. They had Kroger brand products, and that's all that was sold on their shelves. But different things like that definitely will help. Don't shop while you're hungry. What happens if you shop when you're hungry? Anyone know? I'm really bad at this, by the way. I always shop when I'm hungry, and then I come home and I have like a cheesecake that I'm unpacking because, oh yeah, I was hungry and that looked good. So we're not going to stick to our budget or to our shopping list if we're hungry when we go shopping. Have an actual list. That could be your handwritten list if you like to carry around a pen and a piece of paper and physically cross them off. Sometimes that's kind of satisfying as well. You may also take a list. I'm going to show you some apps for your cell phones at the end. So there's different apps and things you can go and just kind of click as you buy things in the store. You can actually, there's apps. I don't know if I have one with that on the slide today. Yes, stopping for dinner on the way home. You have all the groceries you need, but there's nothing to cook, or you just are exhausted from shopping, so you don't want to cook. One that I have started doing with this is if I'm at Walmart, if Walmart is where I'm shopping, other places it gets a little harder, but the rotisserie chickens, the pre-cooked rotisserie chickens at Walmart, if I know that I'm going to be that person and I want to grab some food on the way home, I'll get like a rotisserie chicken, and that way we can have that, and it's easy to do like a couple vegetables or something on the side just to put together. And those rotisserie chickens cost a lot less than, you know, what my meal would if I stopped at Popeyes or something on the way home, which I'm not gonna lie, I do that. But doing that, sometimes we can be a little strategic. Don't buy pre-cut produce. I did this one in college a lot. If you go to Walmart, on the shelves, they have pre-cut onions, pre-cut tomatoes, pre-cut whatever it is. If you look at price per unit, that's so much more expensive than just buying it and cutting it yourself. Now, if it's like a one-time thing and you're short on time, yeah, if we've got that in the budget, but as a whole, it becomes a lot more expensive. Shop your pantry first. Look at what you have at home on your shelves. Maybe it's not because you don't want to buy the same thing twice, but more so, what do I have? What can I use this for? And a couple of the apps at the end that I'll show you are very, very good about keeping track of what you already have in your pantry so you don't buy it twice. One of them, the All Recipes dinner spinner that we'll look at, it actually will take the items that you have in your pantry and give you ideas for dinner items or breakfast items or lunch items that you can make with the ingredients that you already have. And that way you're not thinking, oh, I bought this weird pasta 3 months ago and I haven't used it. What am I going to do with this? It will give you some suggestions. Ask for a rain check. This will be on another slide. Does anyone know what a rain check is when you're shopping? Oh, I like the idea of a dry erase board to know what's in your freezer, because that is such a pain to like scoop through and see everything that's in your freezer. That's a great idea. I love that. Yeah, rain checks are awesome. So if you have a store has a sale going on, and the majority of locations will do this, but not a lot of people know that this is a thing. The only reason I knew this was a thing before looking up for this presentation, my grandmother has a restaurant. So she oftentimes, the rain check that she uses a lot is when grocery stores will have deals on soft drinks and soda, because she has canned drinks at her restaurant. They will sell out very, very quickly. And if they're not there when she gets there, she'll ask for a rain check. And they basically just write her a coupon because the deal was going and they ran out of the product. So the next time that comes back in stock, she can still get the deal, or you could still get the deal that they had on going on at the time, because it's not your fault they ran out of the product. So a lot of grocery stores will do that. Yes, I'm going to be doing the dry erase board. Without a doubt, that is genius. I wonder, now I'm wondering too, a dry erase marker just on the freezer, it may be hard to get off though. Yes, it's genius. That is, I love it. I love it. I love it. See, I like when you guys teach me things too. That makes me so happy. Look for stores that match. So price matching, we'll talk about that too. Buying store brands. Like I said, I use Great Value. Matter of fact, when we do the cooking demo, I will show you my spices, because I cannot say enough. If you find cheap spices, granted, sometimes the more expensive ones are a little bit better, but having a nice spice cabinet or spice supply does wonders when you're cooking, because you can do so much with food with a few different spices that don't cost a lot. I said that my husband and I, every once in a while, will go to Trader Joe's and load up on things, because you can find some good deals there. Spices are the one thing, spices and sauces. Matter of fact, if I open my pantry, it's not very impressive, but we have like a sauce shelf of just random sauces that we will find when they're on sale, and we keep them and they have a long shelf life. And it's so easy to literally spice things up when you're cooking something and want to try something a little bit different when you're getting bored. Rural King. I have bought some spices there, but I have to say I don't normally go to Rural King, but I may have to just start stopping for that reason. They have very good dried ingredients on shelves too, beyond spices. So yes, very good suggestion. Use store pickup. If you are a person that impulse buys or you're hungry and you don't want to go into the store hungry, do a store pickup. Go through, it's not costing anymore. They get everything for you. You can set your presets on there if you want substitutions. So you can go through and you can do a store pickup if necessary. Meal prep, before and after. So what are we actually doing for our meal? What do we have set up? What can we get done ahead of time? Because I do like to meal prep if we have leftovers. I know what I'm doing after, but the before part is sometimes challenging because you know you want to make something for dinner, but if you don't have anything ready for it, then sometimes that's difficult. So having things that are already made or being strategic in how we store it in the refrigerator, that can help. Look for frozen and canned options. Yes, we could argue all day that fresh is best, but when we are looking and really trying to cut costs, there are some good options that are frozen and canned, especially if you know what to do with it. You can really make those things work for you and save money. Utilize cashback options. That could be something as easy if you already have a credit card when you're trying to find a credit card, but more specifically with groceries, there are a lot of stores that have programs. That could be something like a Kroger card and getting discounts on your gasoline the more you shop, or getting points that you can utilize somewhere. So many places have this, even gas stations and things utilize this. So if there's benefits and perks that you can get and you're already going to be shopping there, utilize it. This next one, don't shop at eye level, is huge. They put the most expensive options and normally the prettiest options on the shelves that are like 2 shelves right in the middle of average eye height. So if you look at the lower shelves, you look at the upper shelves. Granted, when I go shopping with my grandma, I have to get the things on the upper shelves for her. So maybe go shopping with a buddy, or don't be afraid to ask someone to get it for you. But things on the upper and lower shelves oftentimes are going to be a little bit cheaper, and they may be the generic versions, but there's oftentimes going to be different options if you look. Also try things like meatless Mondays. If you do Taco Tuesdays, put a new spin on tacos. So make something a point that you want to utilize. And then if we use items and ingredients that aren't going to cost as much, we can kind of make a day of it and make it a thing. Some programs that work for you. There are all kinds of programs out there, and a lot of these we have probably heard of, but maybe not ever taken great advantage of. So number one, local food banks. If you need items, food banks, and sometimes surprisingly, we volunteered at a food bank with our Country Road students last week, and some of the items that get donated there are incredible, especially your fresh foods. So don't be afraid to look into the food banks if in need. SNAP benefits. We'll talk more specifically about SNAP here in a few minutes. And again, a lot of these are well known, but there may be things that go with them that we don't often think of. Food sharing programs. This is a big one in summer food service. Both of these are very big. If you have a child that's in the public school system, you probably get information on these. If you don't, then there is information out there. You just have to find it. Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, SFMNP, if you ever see that abbreviated. Again, that would be for seniors, but there are extra discounts and programs for seniors out there, specifically with farmers markets, which we'll look at again more here. The Meals on Wheels program, Feeding America backpack program. Again, that would be for students in public education. Utilizing WIC, there's our SNAP again. Military service seasonal food banks, if you are a military family or the son or daughter of someone that was in the military, married to someone in the military. And actually, I feel like there's maybe, don't quote me on this, but I feel like if you are the child of someone in the military, you also qualify for that one, but I may be wrong on that. We also have the CSFP, the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. Again, a lot of these you're going to hear a lot about if you have children, just because that's where the marketing goes, is for families that have children. But a lot of these benefits are there if you're not hearing about them, you can reach out and get some more information. Now, our big kicker here is going to be if my volume works on my laptop. In the chat, if you will, when I start playing this, please let me know if you can or cannot hear it. If it plays.
As a professor of medicine, my goal is to create healthy people. If you're a doctor, you have 3 kids, you have 40 biologists, so correctly, you can take care of that 40. So you can go spend $80 in your pocket. And heck yeah, like you could probably stock up and feed your family for a week of real food on $40.
It's really great to be able to give somebody twice what they would normally have to spend.
Okay, let's do this. I am going to share this presentation with everyone, so you will have the videos. And I will just kind of go over what's in here because it's going to be on the next slide too. But I will share the presentation so everyone will have these videos. This is talking about one of the SNAP benefits, and if you utilize the SNAP program, they actually at farmers markets, and I can't just kind of gloat on this program as a whole. They actually, the majority of places, West Virginia being one of the states that do this, they double SNAP benefits. They do like double dollars, I think is what the program in Morgantown call them. Every different farmers market, county, state utilize something with a little different name. But essentially what that is if you have SNAP benefits, you go, there's a stand set up at the farmers market, and the majority, some of them will have a separate card, but the majority will give you actual tokens or dollars, where if you get, say, $50 in SNAP benefits, then you can actually spend $100 worth of money or these tokens or dollars at your food farmers markets. And that way, instead of buying $50 worth of produce, you're actually able to turn it into $100 worth of produce. Or if you have $30, you now have $60 worth of produce. And there's also things in the SNAP program that you can buy at farmers markets that may not be readily available in a lot of the stores you shop at. Sorry, I just got a message in chat. The majority of the time, I won't say that every farmers market does this, because there are kind of some hoops they have to jump through. The larger farmers markets almost always will have this, but if they had it previously, odds are they have it again this year, because if they've done the work to go through, and it's basically just a yearly submitting documents and making sure they're still meeting the criteria they have to meet. If they have it set up, they more than likely will continue doing it, unless something big happens. I don't know specifically with Fayette, but I would say chances are they probably are still doing it. And like I said, mainly because it's a state-run program. So the majority of your larger farmers markets are going to do it. With SNAP, so what can SNAP actually get? A lot of times we've heard of SNAP and a lot of people don't really know what all goes with it. So when we talk about SNAP, number one, it's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That's what our acronym stands for. We have the West Virginia Kids Coupon Program, similar to what we just talked about with the farmers market. But if you have a child, you can actually get more perks. Think of it kind of like a child tax credit, but with food. So if you have children, you can actually qualify for more points, and you can use that for coupons for food. Your SNAP and EBT at the farmers markets, your SNAP Ed programs, a lot of extension offices and government provided programs will actually have education sessions that are devoted to this. And they will actually, so like today, I said, use spices, spice up what you're cooking. It's easy to talk about things that you could do, but let's be honest, a lot of people have never really learned to cook. They've never really been in a kitchen. So a lot of our SNAP Ed programs will actually do nutrition programming. They will actually maybe do cooking classes. They will do pre-recorded things that you can find online so you can get this information, because telling you about it doesn't really help if you don't know what to do with the food once you get it. Buying seeds and plants. This is one I didn't know until a couple years ago. If you have SNAP benefits, you can actually buy plants to plant yourself at home that will then grow the food that you're going to eat. So if you're at a farmer's market and you're utilizing this double dollars or whatever percentage extra it is at the farmer's market, then you could actually buy seeds or plant starters, take them home and grow produce yourself. And that's one that a lot of people don't realize. EBT grocery. There are certain grocery stores where you can do the curbside pickup or online orders using the EBT program. Those are becoming more and more popular since COVID started. So definitely look into that. Sometimes that's a negative because we can't do curbside pickup if we're using our SNAP benefits, but that is Walmart now does that. I know. I think Aldi, when they started their curbside, may do that. I don't know about Target. And of course, that's only for things that qualify with SNAP. That wouldn't be everything you're buying in a curbside pickup, but what does would go for that. If you keep food in your fridge, you will eat good food. We hope, right? What we know, families that utilize the SNAP program in particular, a seed program with the extension office. Do we know, is that a county thing or a statewide thing, Carolyn? I know a lot of counties sometimes will do that, especially like winter plantings. Okay, you're in Fayette, right? So definitely in Fayette. Oh, okay, Raleigh did. I would say definitely if you have never worked with your extension office before, and this is a plug because I used to work with extension, so I know there's a lot of things happening in those offices that don't always get publicized. Never be afraid to give them a call and just ask, hey, what's up? What's going on? What kind of programs are you doing right now? And they will love to tell you because they get funding based on how many community members they're interacting with. So individuals that use SNAP, what we know is that our hope is that if you have food, you're eating well. Eating well and eating healthy do not equal one another. While the number one SNAP expenditure category is the same as non-SNAP, America, that's where we are. God love us, right? Meat is our number one in both categories. The second for SNAP is sweetened beverages, soda. Soft drinks are ranked the number one purchased commodity by households receiving SNAP benefits. This accounts for almost 10% of the money spent through the SNAP program. What does that mean? Not much, because there's not a lot of difference between what's purchased with SNAP versus what anyone not in the SNAP program is purchasing. However, those in the SNAP program statistically are healthier than those who do not have access to SNAP Ed. And I thought that was a neat statistic because a lot of times we talk about people who stereotypes are on welfare who receive these kind of benefits, have the pre-processed, really sugary things. They also, if they know where to get these benefits, they actually have better access to cheaper produce and healthier foods. So that's kind of a stereotype that's not really accurate, at least not anymore. I'm sure that has changed. Speaking of change, if you haven't noticed, prices are going crazy when it comes to affecting our grocery budget. So looking at pre and at the beginning of the pandemic versus now, 2020 and 2021 statistics, 2020 at-home food prices, so what you're getting from the grocery store and bringing back home to cook, increased 3.5%. Away from home, so eating out, going out to eat, things that are already prepared, which by the way, you cannot buy with SNAP benefits. You can't go in and buy a prepared pizza. You can buy a frozen pizza and take it home to eat on your own. But that's also something that not a lot of individuals know about the SNAP benefits. Those had increased to 3.4. So about the same, and what we're preparing at home and what we're buying out. 2021, it raised another 3.5%. And food away from home had increased 4.5%. So we started seeing when we eat out, food prices are starting to go up more than what we're making at home. Beef was the food item that increased the most, 9.3%. All of our protein did, but beef really skyrocketed. Pork was a close second. No food decreased from 2020 to 2021. So there was no food that actually went down in value. Everything went up. Now, as we continue into today's food prices were 10.4% higher across the board in the last year from June to June. This is the last time the statistics have been posted. Food at home and away from home raised 1% from May to June. So in just 1 month this year, they had jumped 1% all on their own. That 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but that's quite a lot when it's affecting our pocket, right? Food at home prices were 12.12% higher in June than they were last year in June. So we've been looking at like a 3.5% increase, 12.2%. It's tremendous. We know that food prices, we've heard it in the media, but actually looking number wise at how much it has been going up is insane. Almost 4 times higher in the last year than what it had been doing. Food away from home, so eating out, I thought this was surprising that it only went up 7.7. Yes, that's double what it had been, but it's almost only half of what our food that we're cooking in our kitchen had gone up. And that's tremendous. So what can we do to combat this? What can we do at home? Number one, buy in bulk. Watch our prices. Don't buy our pre-cut produce and look for frozen and canned items. It'll be on another slide, but when we're buying in bulk, don't be afraid to ask for those rain checks if things run out. Don't be afraid to ask for price matching at certain places that may have a better supply, maybe just better looking food. I know that there are some stores where I will not buy meat products just because their meat never looks good. But if there's somewhere that will price match that same item, you can go there. Now my video is not even available. You know what? That's okay, because you guys are going to have these videos when I share this presentation, and that gives us more time to make sure I can go through things with our cooking demo. When we buy in bulk, most of the time, if we buy a lot, we're eating it quickly. If we don't eat it quickly, then it's very, very important we know what to do with those items to keep it fresh and to make it last. So freezing is essential when we are buying a lot. And someone had just said that they go in on like half a cow, which is awesome. Or if you have venison, or if our family normally does pigs for the ham and bacon show for FFA and 4-H. And then when they go to harvest those, we'll pay for like half a hog and we keep that in our freezer. But we have to know how to store it, because if not, we're going to get freezer burnt. We're going to get items that don't seal correctly. You don't want to waste food if you're going in on something that large. So when we freeze it, these videos kind of walk through different things to take into account, but some of them are freezing flat, making sure that we don't have a lot of air exposure. Anytime we have air exposure, the more air exposure, so the longer it takes for us to get it into the freezer when we buy it fresh, the higher likelihood that we are going to have more freezer burnt foods. We're also going to have foods that will lose their water moisture and pull it out. So we get really, really, say fruits and vegetables. If you're freezing fruits and vegetables, you get the really mushy fruits and vegetables when you thaw those. You may get the really watery meats and steaks, hamburger. So making sure we know how to go about that. And there will be tips and tricks in these videos when I share them with you. This one will be the same way. And from this picture, the main thing I'm going to share with you on this one is make sure you're dating your items. So even if we take on the whiteboard idea with our freezers, which I think that's the one takeaway we're all going to have today, I love it. But if we're doing that, we also need to know that those items we have in there are still going to be good and what needs use first. So if you've ever done the FIFO rule, first in, first out, If we're adding new things in there, make sure we're putting the newest at the back and the oldest at the top so that we're getting the old stuff out and we're not leaving it in there for a year or two, or I think we've all done that at one time, realized, hey, that's been in there way longer than it should have been. And we end up pulling it out. Other kind of tips and tricks that are in these videos, if you need to use something like chicken broth and you're not going to use it all, instead of sticking it back into the refrigerator, take an ice cube tray, put the stock or your chicken broth in and putting them into a bag to freeze. And the next time you're cooking stir fry or rice or something where you can just use a little bit of that for seasoning and also for your liquid, pop out an ice cube and put it into your pan. You can do the same thing with fresh herbs. Freeze it in just a little bit of water so the water will melt, and then you have your herbs. If you're having to cut up a lot of parsley or onions or something, you can freeze those similarly as well. Trying to think, soups and things, instead of freezing them in very large amounts or in large containers, freezing them flat in freezer bags, proper freezer bags, will make single servings that you're more likely to use. It also prevents it from going bad because we can freeze it flat and get the air out of that packaging as well. Some things to remember when we are freezing is that not all foods freeze well. That doesn't mean you can't freeze everything, because you can. But if you have things like sauces or gravy, it will separate. It gets really watery. And once that happens, if it's done with flour or cornstarch as thickener, it is near impossible to get those to mix back together. So those sort of things may not be worth freezing. Yes, so things like lasagna, if you freeze for individual portions, definitely, most definitely. Or you can buy like the smaller pans if you're putting things together and then you're going to pull it out and freeze it later. My family always did that with a lot of casseroles. So if you do that, you prepare it, put it in the smaller containers so you can take it out and cook it, but you don't have to make the family reunion size when you're ready to cook it. Fruits and veggies with high water content, they also do not freeze as well. One thing that we do, if you buy a lot of produce and it starts to go bad, say bananas or strawberries, those are things that don't freeze well. But if we take them right before they go bad and throw them into the freezer, it's really easy to take them later. Apples, if you do applesauce, because you're going to mush them up anyway. If you do smoothies or anything where you can incorporate fruits into it, or maybe just make like freezer jam or jelly. So there's different things you can utilize and still freeze, but just freezing them on their own doesn't really work. If you already have cooked potatoes, because they're cooked, they're mushy, and then those ice crystals are freezing, a lot of times those are not going to be a happy texture when you prepare them afterwards. Fully cooked pasta for the same reason as the potatoes, but you can partially cook that, put it into the freezer, and then finish it later. As long as we are immediately freezing it, we don't want that time in between where bacteria is going to start growing by partially cooking something. But if it's only pasta, normally we're safe with that. Dairy products also, my grandmother, again, is infamous for freezing milk when there's a good sale on milk, especially as milk prices have been increasing. But you can definitely tell a difference between the milk that was in the freezer and fresh milk. So again, not saying it doesn't freeze, but you can definitely tell a quality difference. Couponing. Shop at stores that price match. Some of these we've already talked about. Costco, Sam's, Amazon, they do not price match. Walmart and Target, they do. You also have some smaller grocery stores that will also price match specifically with groceries. Some places will do it with non-grocery items, but Walmart and Target definitely do their grocery items. You can get double coupons. A lot of times these are going to be your smaller grocery stores, Foodland, Food Lion, Galaxy, Giant Eagle. They tend to be the big ones in West Virginia that will do this. I'm sure there are probably some other like mom and pop grocers that would do this too, but they actually will give double coupons, in-store coupons that you can utilize. The Sunday paper. Granted, a lot of us don't get that anymore, but there are Sunday papers that you can get virtually that will also include coupons. There's also free websites for coupons. There's coupon sites where you can go in and it's almost like a Facebook marketplace and you can trade with people for different coupons. If you watch the extreme couponing, I mean, you can really go as far down that rabbit hole as you want and save some serious money, but these are just basic things you can do to help save. Store saving programs, we talked about like Kroger, having a Kroger card, asking for our rain checks, and shop on sales. If you know there's a sale coming, but you need food, just buy just what you need for that time and then wait for the sale, buy in bulk and keep it, freezing it or however, to keep it good until we need it. Okay, so here's the apps I was telling you about. Each of these do a little different kind of thing. No Waste is very effective. I had this one for a while. I don't so much now because I just use my notes app on my phone and it was taking up a lot of data on there. So now I just keep a running list of my pantry, but the No Waste will actually keep it from time and time again. It gives you like this really neat view. It looks like a refrigerator, so you can see everything on your shelves, or in list view. So it's kind of more of a pantry, make sure I know what I have so I don't have to search through it every time I go to the grocery store. Epicurious, this one will give you ideas for what to make with items that are in your pantry. It will also help keep a running tally of your pantry, but it's not the cleanest in your pantry list, but it does a very good job at suggesting recipes with the items that you have. Grocery Hero also helps with keeping your food inventory, but it does a very good job at helping with those recipes and ideas for what to keep. The All Recipes, I am a sucker. I have the dinner spinner on my phone. It's one that I've had for years. It's great with giving, No Waste doesn't, but the other two give you ideas for what to make with your items in your pantry. But the All Recipes has a lot more out there list of recipes. They have a lot more creative ideas because the All Recipes is an actual app on its own that has a repertoire of recipes that you can utilize. So I very much suggest the dinner spinner, especially if you're willing to get a little creative in the kitchen. Okay. So we're going to move on. I'm going to have to wash my hands because my nose is itching. We are going to look at a cooking demo today for tofu. And the reason I chose tofu is the biggest reason. It is one of the only proteins in the last 2 years that, granted, it has gone up in price because remember, nothing went down in price from 2020 to 2021. But it has gone up the least out of the main proteins in the grocery store. It is still fairly cheap. It has not been one that has been hard to find. If you guys remember when the pandemic started, and even here, 5 months ago or so, it was very hard to find certain proteins in the grocery store because they were just running out of them or there was a short supply. There has not been recalls on tofu, unlike other proteins. So as a whole, it has been available and it is cheap to make. The other reason that I use this as our example is because it is one that a lot of people do not know about cooking, are not familiar with cooking, or are scared to cook. So hopefully this will help us. So some things about tofu. It's also known as bean curd because it comes from soybeans. It is nice for a meat replacement. If you're using it in the place of meat, which is what we will use today, there are different types when you buy them. And firm or extra firm are your best options because it's going to hold together more like a meat would. We want to make sure we press tofu, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Tofu tastes like nothing. It really doesn't. It does have a slight, if you've ever had like a green bean before it's finished cooking and you haven't seasoned it, kind of that beany flavor, but it's not strong. There's really not much of a flavor to it. So it can taste like whatever you make it taste like, which again is why having good spices helps tremendously. You can also easily bake tofu. And if you don't really like it, we're going to pan fry ours today, which when we look at health, baking it is better, and baking can produce a slightly different texture. So sometimes with tofu, it's more about the texture than the taste. And if we pan fry it, it actually will kind of have the texture of a chicken nugget. My son is an extremely picky eater. He's 6, and he actually went out eat tofu cooked this way. So what we are going to do I'm going to, let's go over here. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, so what we are going to do is I've tried to set this up as much like a cooking show as I could. This is our tofu that we'll be making. It is, you can find it in the grocery section, normally around your produce. So around your salad ingredients and things. I'm gonna cut this open over here on my cutting board. Okay. There's several different packaging. This is just one. I got the extra firm. You can get, I think it's like an extra firm, but this is just our extra firm. And I've already drained the liquid off of it, but it comes out in a brick, just like this. So again, it's a little intimidating if you've never cooked with it. We want to press our tofu. The main reason is, and I don't know if you can see this well on the camera, but if I take this and squeeze it, it's going to start dripping because it is bean curd. So it has a lot of moisture. It's kept in that container with moisture to keep it shelf stable. And we want to press that liquid out. If we marinate it, if we do anything like that with it, it is not going to absorb the flavors that we're putting in it. And it's just going to stay this blank canvas. So normally what I do, depending on your size, for pan frying, we don't want it too big because we want to get kind of that nice crunch on it all the way around. So if you cut it down the middle 2 to 3 times, it gets fairly thin. And we're going to end up with these sheets of tofu. And you can see my cheap way of pressing here. You can buy food presses to do this. I have a normal baking sheet. This is my top layer. I have lined it with a few paper towels. You can also do this with regular towels and then just wash them. But I'm using paper towels because it's a quicker cleanup when I'm done. We're going to take and we're just going to lay it down onto our paper towel. I'm going to take my top piece of paper towel because it's going to drain out on top as well. And we need to press it. So we need to put weight on top of it. And this is my quick and easy weight. I'm going to take another pan and I'm going to take a few pots that are heavy just to add weight. You can use whatever you want. Casserole dishes work perfectly as well. So whatever you have, and you will press it. Now, how long do we press it? It really depends on what you're going to do with it. So if you are coming in and wanting to marinate, and that's what we are doing today. So last night, I went in and I marinated. I cut it into chunks once it was done pressing. I let it press for a couple hours just to really get as much moisture. Depending on how firm of tofu you use, you may have to switch out your paper towels a couple of times because the less firm, the more moisture that's going to be in it. This again was the extra firm. I marinated in this way. Here is my ingredients, and it looks like a lot, but I've got some breadcrumbs, cornstarch. My marinade was mainly soy sauce. I normally put a little bit of teriyaki in there and cut up some garlic. There's a little bit of honey. I just like it a little sweeter. It doesn't make it really sweet. It just makes it a little sweeter. Smoked paprika. This is one of my favorite spices. This comes from Trader Joe's. We get it whenever it's on sale. And you can see my assortment. This is Aldi garlic powder, great value spices. So our spice cabinet is very deep. But again, black garlic, this is one that we wouldn't normally have, but we just happened to find it on sale for like $1 a bottle. I forget which store we were in when we found that. But when I find spices or sauces, I pick it up because it does so much for your pantry. Okay, so what we are going to do, let's go over here. Here is our marinated, already pressed, and it's been marinating overnight. You want to let it marinate for at least a few hours so you really get those flavors in there. We are going to take, in order to pan fry, over on the stovetop, I've already got my oil heated, sitting over here. I put my dry ingredients. So my cornstarch, my breadcrumbs, and all my spices that were on my counter. What can you put in here? I've got the recipe to share with you, but you can put whatever you want in here. If there's certain spices you like, you don't like, you can make it taste like Italian seasonings and put it with spaghetti. Whatever you want, you could do with this. Again, tofu is going to take on whatever flavor you want. I'm going for making mine taste a little more like chicken because I know that's how my son likes it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my marinated pieces and I am going to come over and put them into my dry ingredients. I'm not going to lie, it took me way too long to figure this part out. If you have a big bowl that has a lid, this part goes so much cleaner. We're just going to take it. We put a wet ingredient into a dry ingredient, shake it up, get it nice and coated. It's already wet, so you don't have to worry about dredging it in like egg or anything like that. It is already in here, and they will kind of look like little tiny marshmallows. So if you can see the tofu that's down in there. Now we're going to take it, and I'm going to take each little tiny piece and we're going to stick it down into our oil. You should have your oil hot enough where you are going to see it start bubbling. I need to turn mine up a little bit. I didn't have mine up very high because I was afraid my oil would start to burn while we were talking. So while that is heating up, it's still hot enough. I can see the bubbles, so it's not going to hurt anything. If you get a little bit of that excess flour off of there, it will keep your oil cleaner if you're doing a big batch. You can also do this with as small of a batch as you want. You can freeze tofu, but it is one of those foods, because there's so much moisture in it, it does not freeze the best. Can you? Yes. And depending on how you cook it, it might do very, very well. I am also going to share a recipe for tofu tacos. It would be like your Meatless Monday and your Taco Tuesday all in one. And when you do that, you don't have to fry your tofu like this. You can just cook it like you would a burger. So you wouldn't really have to worry about getting the firm or extra firm. You could get the less firm variety and use it in just the same way. So once we have that, we get it down into our oil. I'll rinse my cornstarch off my hand. My oil is heating up. We don't want to get it too hot because then it will start to burn. But you can kind of see as it cooks. And again, the more flour we have on there, if we get the extra off, the better, because it will start, if you've ever made gravy before, the bottom of your oil will start looking like gravy. So we are going to let this cook. And as it's in there, it will stay for about 2 to 3 minutes per side, just until it starts looking crispy. So again, depending on your preference. Yes, I have air fried tofu. It works very well. It really does. I don't like the consistency as much. I like doing it in the pan. I don't know what that means. Probably that I'm very unhealthy, but I like it a little bit better. We do, when we do the tacos, I just scratched my nose again. When we do the tacos, we will actually bake it, and only bake it without the cornstarch. So we will just marinate it and cut it very thin and put it onto a baking sheet and bake it. And when it comes out, I haven't tried it this way yet, but I have a friend that will slice it into very thin, long strips and bake it that way with a little bit of liquid smoked paprika, garlic, and soy sauce. And it almost tastes like bacon. I've eaten it when she's made it, but I've never made it that way yet. So again, there's a lot of differences. While that's cooking, I'm going to go ahead and go in here and wash my hands again. So here's our recipe for the tofu tacos. And with our tacos, again, the seasonings and things, you can make this however you want. So you could definitely do a version of this where it's taco if you want to use like cumin and things. That's what's in this recipe. But you also could do it with some slightly different. My husband, my spice pantry is right above my head. Just to give you an idea, my husband really likes Cajun and Creole seasoning. So we have some Creole seasoning. If you like fish tacos, we also do, here's our Cajun two-step. These are his go-tos when he's cooking. And again, just to give you an idea, if you want to see this spice pantry, Trader Joe's, you never know what you're going to find at Trader Joe's. Harissa, I think this may have came from Trader Joe's too. I don't remember. But we have just about a little bit of everything that is in here. We always carry a little bit of liquid smoke. If you're looking for a meat substitute, then that liquid smoke just kind of gives it that meaty quality. A little bit of Worcestershire sauce. We'll do that as well. Okay, our tofu is about done on that side. You don't have to use, trying to find a fork. You don't have to use a whole lot of oil in this. You can see about where your oil comes up to. It's not covering it. You're only looking at about maybe a 1/4 inch of oil on the bottom. And you're just going to take it and flip it. And if you have a lot in this pan, you can do it with a spatula. I don't have very many, so I'm just going to flip it with a fork really quick. And then we'll give it 2 to 3 minutes over on the other side. And let it cook. Here's our baked tofu. You also, if you're going a little bit healthier, we have different types of oils you can use. If you would bake it and decide, hey, this is horrible, I don't like this texture, I don't like this consistency, you can always take it out and then put it in your air fryer. I have found it works better air frying it if you have baked it first. I think it just gives it a little better consistency if you're that texture kind of person. Or you could put it in and pan fry it after you have baked it. So if we look at our comparisons of tofu versus other meats. So most tofu, depending on the type, this particular type, I think they have 3 different brands at Walmart, but this particular, and it says organic, but didn't really buy it because of that. The Soya is the brand that I'm using in this demo, but it was $1. I want to say $1.60 something. It actually has gone down a little bit in price, but most tofu is somewhere around $2 per package, and it's approximately a pound in a package. Granted, some of that is water weight because it is very, very high in moisture content. And as you press that, some of that will come out. But just purchasing, we know that happens if you make burgers or something too. Ground beef is somewhere around $4 a pound, if you're lucky. Can be much more, especially depending on the quality. If you're getting, like 80-20 or 70-30. We also know that as far as health is concerned, our tofu is a healthier protein because it has far less calories. So 100 calorie serving of tofu has 2 more grams of protein also than ground beef. So our amount of tofu and the amount of protein that it provides is definitely going to be a benefit compared to most pork, beef, even fish. So just something to think about. We can look in at our tofu till it's about done. We can see that it's getting pretty golden brown. Again, you can leave it in there longer. If I'm cooking this for my son, Oh no, is everyone still here? My laptop just died. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, let's try this again. So our tofu is done. And all I've done is taken a plastic bowl, lined it with paper towels, because there will be grease that comes off of this. Or oil. I'm going to take it, get the excess oil off. Got my plate ready and prepared. And again, you can make as much of this as you like. But when it comes out, it sort of looks like little fried cheese cubes, and that's kind of the consistency. So again, if you're a texture person and you don't like that soft texture, you can leave it in a little longer and it will just help firm it up. And normally all we do with ours, we may put a little salt on it, a little bit of green onion. You can get like some hoisin sauce or a little bit of teriyaki, whatever you like. Put it on and enjoy. So not a lot goes into it. Not very time intensive. Definitely cheap. Probably the biggest waste that we do with it is our oil. And you can do continuous amounts for a large batch with the same amount of oil until your oil just doesn't fry anymore. So hopefully that gives us something new to try. And that is what I've got. Our next session is parenting tips. Things that we will look at is effective discipline, quality versus quantity time, and what that means to children, low-cost activity ideas, the importance of child development milestones and why it doesn't matter if your child's hitting them on time or not, because every kid's different, and what to actually expect from parenting. So if you have your own children, definitely come and attend. If you have nieces, nephews, involvement with children at all, if you watch children, definitely maybe some things that you can take away from this. This one will be on October 18th, which is a Tuesday rather than a Wednesday, because I will be at a conference on the 19th on Wednesday. So we will have that one on Tuesday instead. If you all have any recipes you would like to share with everyone else, please feel free to email those to me. I did get one yesterday, and when I send out the information for this later, which probably will not be sent till tomorrow, I have to take my son to a dentist appointment here in about 2 minutes. I will send the presentation so you have access to those videos and references. You'll have the recipes, and I will send your recipes out as well. Does anyone have any questions? You're very welcome. Thank you all for joining. Again, hopefully it was informative. One second. I'll be right back. Does anyone have any other information that might help someone else with the things we talked about? Thank you, Jack. All right, folks. If that's it, have a wonderful Wednesday, and hopefully I will see some of you back in October.